Back to this week, time now to get the views of our media and political experts, Metro Councilman at Large and Democratic Operative Jerry Maynard, and her daily on 1510 WLAC syndicated talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Was there really any political news this week? Wasn't it all Peyton Manning?
So busy talking off the air, we forget the cameras are coming.
Peyton Manning, I mean, that's all we were talking about. Even the state legislature gets involved and passes a resolution urging Peyton to come here, unanimous. That's going to turn the tide.
There's nothing else going on in the state, Bob. We have to do that, right?
It's silly season up there.
Right.
I'd say of the 100 factors that Peyton Manning is likely to take into consideration of where to go as an NFL quarterback, the Tennessee legislators' opinion is about 101st.
Right.
But they passed it unanimously, so they are all in agreement on that topic anyway. There was a primary this week in the Deep South, Alabama and Mississippi, and Rick Santorum wins them both. There were two others, Hawaii and America Samoa, which Mitt Romney won, but the big delegate counts were in Mississippi and Alabama. And even though Santorum wins, he has the momentum in the South, the math still favors Romney.
Well, I think the other thing to keep in mind is this is another good week for Rick Santorum, but at the end of this weekend, he got less delegates than Mitt Romney did. Mitt Romney now has 2-1 over Santorum and has more delegates than all the other guys combined, has over 1 million votes more than the rest. And now you look to the states that they're going to next, which include a lot of winner-take-all states where he's favored, or states where he's favored to win the majority of the delegates. So I think when you look at the track ahead, things still look awfully good for Mitt Romney.
What Steve said is accurate and it's factual. The problem is Mitt Romney still has a problem with the base. The base of the Republican Party does not like him, they don't support him, and he doesn't have any excitement or enthusiasm. When Rick Santorum can beat you and Newt Gingrich gets second place, and you're outspent 5-1, and as Steve will tell you, Newt may have outspent Romney in Alabama, but Romney's been outspending Santorum in every state, and he's losing. It's all about momentum and message. It's not about just delegate count.
I think, again, you've got to look at the winning record. Again, going into Super Tuesday, Romney had won 11 out of the last 15 contests. So the media is pounding the message that Romney's losing until you look at the states he wins. 11 out of 15 wins is not losing.
Big states coming up, Illinois, Missouri, Louisiana, big delegate states, and some of those, like you said, winner take all. Does he need a clear victory to kind of, in that talk, to kind of again become that front runner that he still is with his delegates?
Obviously, he needs to keep winning, and he needs to start winning bigger. But I think what you're looking at as you go ahead is the fact that the delegate counts keep adding up for him. You're moving into winner-take-all states. And at the end of the day, he does have the organization, particularly in those swing states. He made the comment this week that he's been winning in the more important states, and that riled up some people in Tennessee and Alabama. What he was talking about is Ohio and Michigan and Virginia, the battleground states in the fall. That's where you have to win the election in the fall, and that's where he's been winning.
In a primary race, the most important thing is that you have momentum. That's the most important thing, and money. Steve and I will both agree on you have to have money. What happens with Santorum's victories is that more fundraising, more dollars coming in, dollars that could be going to Mitt Romney, dollars that Mitt Romney should not be spending. Steve Gill can spend this all he wants to. But you don't want to have to spend all that money right now in the primary. Mitt Romney needs to be saving his money, holding his cards close to his vest, getting ready for the general election. He cannot do that as long as he continues to lose these races, while Obama is stacking his money, raising more money, and not spending it.
I would point out, first of all, that Obama is spending it faster than it's coming in right now. And second, look at the calendar. Mitt Romney did not drop out of the race 4 years ago until March 24th. We're not even there yet.
Right.
And Mike Huckabee didn't drop out until April 2nd. So it's not like we're much later in the system than we were 4 years ago. And I'd remind Jerry that, of course, 4 years ago, they went to June on the Democrat side.
But Mitt Romney is spending money he does not want to spend. And he said,
that's probably true.
He stated that he wanted to have an early victory in the primary to get ready for Obama. And now that's not happening, which gives momentum to Santorum and gives fear to Mitt Romney supporters that he cannot close the deal. Momentum says you can't close the deal. You don't have it. Rick Santorum does have it.
They've changed the rules, though. But keep in mind that you have proportional distribution of delegates, whereas last time, if you won a state, you pretty much got all the delegates.
Right.
They changed the rules to make this drag out, which is why it's dragging out.
Is Gingrich the wild card as far as Santorum is concerned? If Gingrich were to get out, and it sounds like he's not going to, does that help it? Does that make it possible for Santorum to win this nomination?
I think it cuts both ways. You've got the Romney folks that are arguing that Newt's votes would split somehow, whether it's half and half, whether it's a slight to Santorum. Again, when you look at the next states coming up, I'm not sure that Newt in or Newt out really has that much of an impact in terms of the division. Now, obviously, in Alabama, in Tennessee, in Mississippi, it was such an equal split that him not being there probably would have given Santorum even more delegates. But when you move to Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, California, that's not the case.
I think Rick Santorum wants to have an opportunity to say, I'm going to focus on Romney and Romney only. You also have fundraisers and people who want to give money, who want to give to a conservative and not Romney. So every time Newt is still in there, that is still another person, alternative to give your money to, your support to, volunteer for, as opposed to saying, no, we're going to all go in with Rick Santorum and not have an alternative in Newt Gingrich. Newt, to me, is a distraction. Right now, Rick Santorum needs to get him out of this race, and he needs to go on head-to-head with Mitt Romney. If he does that, I believe Santorum will beat Mitt Romney in Illinois and all these other places. 15 points means a lot in Ohio.
But it doesn't sound like Newt is getting out of the race.
Newt's not going anywhere because his incentive is not just to try to hurt Romney, but to become sort of the titular head of the conservative wing of the Republican Party. The money, the organization, the emails he's amassing right now set him up afterwards to be on the outside being an influence. And if Mitt Romney's in the White House, he's going to have huge influence on what happens in the White House, much more than if he's in the White House working with
But that's
Romney.
selfish. Why would you do that, Newt, if you're really a Republican, you're about the Republican Party, and you're about beating Obama? Why would you stay in just for your own self-interest?
Here in Tennessee, former Congressman Lincoln Davis is suing the state over being purged from the rolls. He says about 70,000 people may have been inadvertently purged wrongly. The state disagrees, says that most of the people purged no longer live. So I guess the real question is not that he was purged, but does the system need to be looked at?
Well, the system needs to be looked at. I'm more concerned about the voter ID law that was passed, and we see that in several states. The Justice Department has sued those states, and the court has put in an injunction on those laws. I'm hoping the same thing will happen here in Tennessee. As it goes to our former congressperson, it's a little complicated. He's not going to really get a lot of sympathy because he was registered in one county, registered in another county. So let's focus on what's really important. This is voter ID law. And I know you brought the question about our congressman, but I'd rather focus on the voter ID law.
I think actually the case with Lincoln Davis underscores part of the problem. You had a guy who was registered in two places, and we had no way of knowing whether he was voting in both places, which is why we need voter ID. We need better security so that people can't come in and vote after they're
You didn't know who Lincoln Davis was? You didn't know who Lincoln Davis
was? In several states, as Jerry
but
said,
in both counties, they may not know if he voted for the other one. And that does tend to happen a lot.
Okay.
Several states are challenging the photo ID law that have implemented it recently. Tennessee not being legally challenged yet, but it is still a possibility.
Yeah, in fact, there's going to be a lawsuit filed out of Memphis regarding what's going on there. And we saw that with this recent election, we had several senior citizens in Davidson County complain they did not go vote because they did not have a picture ID, and that the ID that they did present was not acceptable according to the law. So we're going to have some lawsuits in Memphis and in Nashville coming soon. Hopefully they will come sooner than later. We will challenge it, and that the Justice Department will get involved, and we will get an injunction on this voter ID law, and it will be overturned.
I just think it's sad that Jerry and the Justice Department are so upset that people are being racially and ethnically and age discriminated against when they get on an airplane and have to show a photo ID, when they go buy cold beer at Publix, when they go buy cold medicine at Kroger. All these places where people are being discriminated against because they show a photo ID. It is the same thing to make sure that people are not cheating at the polls, and I think the vast majority of Americans think this is a good idea.
Steve Gill, Jerry Maynard, appreciate your time and your insights. Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment.